All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's open forum. Today, we're going to talk about everything that you need to know to make sure that we're doing things the right way with these new buyer brokerage agreements, these new rules on MLS about sharing your compensation, etc. So let's get down to business. We're going to take a bunch of questions today. I have been over these. If you guys haven't seen them, go back and watch the videos of going over these papers one by one, what they do. I'm going to do a real quick recap right now, just to in case you haven't seen it, to teach you, and if you have seen it, to beat it into your head about how these work. If you look at your paperless pipeline, all of you have access to paperless pipeline. You're going to go under the reference tab up top here. See the reference tab? You're going to go into the reference tab and under new forms. For now, they're going to be new forms. Eventually, they'll be buyer brokerage forms. Okay. But for now, they're new forms, so you guys know where they are. Exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, showing agreement, and pre-touring agreement. You must have one of those signed before you take a buyer into someone else's listing, even another FRI listing. But in anyone else's listing, you must have one of these signed before you show a property. There are 3 of them. You must have one of them signed. Ideally, you get the buyer brokerage agreement signed. This form protects you for a certain amount of time, whatever time you make it, plus anything they try to buy after that. So any property that you bring to their attention or they find on their own during this 3-month period, 1 month period, 1 week period, whatever you make it, 1 day period, whatever it is you make it, it is very protective of you and your commission. And that is the one is ideal to get them to sign. Okay. Showing agreement. Not quite as strong. Showing agreements only cover certain properties. So I'll show you this real quickly. You will write down the properties here that you're going to show them. It does not have a protection period other than protecting it if they go back and buy these properties. But these are the ones. So if they just want to see these 4 properties this weekend, you're going to write those 4 properties down. And if they won't sign a buyer brokerage agreement, you're going to write those 4 properties down and show them those properties. Okay. All of our forms, these are Florida Realty Investments forms. They are not the FAR/BAR forms. They are the FAR/BAR forms that we've doctored up by selecting this box. Consumer request to be shown only listed property for which seller is offering buyer brokerage compensation. Let me get back to this before I go into something else. But so that is the showing agreement. The pre-touring agreement, I'm going to show it to you real quickly, does not protect you from anything. It just is something you have to get. If they won't sign anything else, just have them sign this to see a listing. Okay. This is just the bare minimum you can get signed. It says absolutely nothing. You do not broker any compensation at this time. If you wish to work with the broker to purchase a property, broker shows you broker compensation for services are follows. It even says again, if you wish to work with broker to purchase a property, broker may ask you to sign a separate agreement detailing the party's responsibilities during the sale. I challenge you to find another form that says wish and may, another legal form that says wish and may on it. There aren't too many of those. So this means absolutely nothing. Even if you show the property and they go straight to the listing agent, you did not sign anything with them, you did not choose to work with them, you did not wish to work with them, then they don't. But this does cover you in the event that anybody gives you a hard time. Now, there's another question that I'm getting. Who's enforcing this? The answer is we don't know. So there's only going to be a problem right now. The court, this is going to clog up courts is what it's going to do, because the board can't enforce this stuff. There's no, I mean, you can still have if they go back on what they told you they would pay you, if they give you one of these forms we're about to talk about, which I'm getting a lot of questions on. So I'm getting a lot of questions on all of this stuff. Open houses, you do not need them to sign anything to look at an open house you are working. If you're taking them to open houses, yes. But if you are working an open house and someone comes in unrepresented, that's perfectly fine. You are either by proxy or literally representing the seller in that case. But if you work an open house for Christina, ask you to work one of our open houses and you work it, you do not need to have them sign something. They write an offer. If they want to write an offer, you'll have them sign something with that offer. Okay. You can use a showing agreement or a buyer brokerage agreement for that. So Then we'll get into the compensation forms in just a second. Christine, you have a question?
Yeah, I just was seeing regarding like the open house thing or like showing your own listing. I just was curious, like how strict is it in terms of like what you can discuss? I've seen some mention online that if you're, say, showing your own property and somebody wants to discuss like offer terms or I don't know, anything outside of the basic features of the house, is it truly that restrictive where you just have to be like, well, there's the bathroom and this is the price?
No, you're a licensed agent. Why it's no different from before. They haven't changed the rules of real estate. All that's changed, guys, is what you can offer on MLS and some of the ways that we're going to offer it. That's it. That's it. You can still show your open house like you always did before, and you can still write the offer for them, unless they've signed with somebody else. And theoretically, if they want to take on the having to pay two people's commission, then they could do that. But say, did you sign a pre-touring agreement? Did you sign a showing agreement? They're probably not going to know. So typically, if they sign something with someone else, you're just going to say, they signed something with Clarence. You're going to say, we'll have Clarence write the offer.
I thought we had to have something in writing before, especially before like an offer, like at least.
No, you do it with it. Yeah. Do it with it. That's when I would give them, I think in that case, I would give them the showing agreement because it's for this house. So if I've got a 123 Main Street open house and they come in, I would just give them a showing agreement with their thing, because then they're not having to explain something else to them. Say, look, we have to get these signed before,
Yeah. Okay.
And just put that with the offer and have them sign the offer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Pablo. Pablo, you're on mute if you're talking. Okay, Mary. Mary, you might be on mute also. All right. I'm going to go on with these. If you guys can figure out your mute situation, just pipe in. It's perfectly fine. All right. So this is what I'm getting a lot of questions on. I had someone ask me, I am going to write an offer and I want to, I'm going to write an offer and I want to do I need to send them a seller's broker to buyer's broker or a seller to buyer broker? I wouldn't know. And this is where I'm telling you guys as listing agents, there's no way for the buyer's agent to know who's offering the commission to them, right? Or how it's being offered or even how much. So then this agent had talked to the listing agent and the agent told him 2.5%. And they said, they asked me, which form do I send them? The seller's broker to buyer's broker or seller to buyer broker? I wouldn't know. Only listing agent would know that. Also, typically it's going to be seller's broker to buyer's broker, but also the listing agent should have already had that ready to send you. Just if you have a listing, have it ready to send somebody. Just says 2.5 seller's broker to buyer. If you're just doing, like in this case, it was them getting 5% and giving 2.5. And so what they should have done is had a bunch of 2.5 ones written up already, ready to go, or just one to send out to everybody that asks. That is the best and simplest way to do it, because you're offering every brokerage and every buyer the same thing. I want to show you this agreement real quickly. All it says is seller's broker, which if it's your listing, you'll put Florida Realty Investments. Buyer's broker, you'll leave blank. Property address, you'll put that. Buyer's name, you'll leave that blank. The term, you can put 30 days, is fine. Because it doesn't matter. This is what you're offering. And you'll do 2.5% of the gross purchase price. That's it in that case. And just have them ready to send out. Okay? That way the people know everything's easy. When you have a buyer's broker fill this out, they're going to mess it up and they might use the wrong form. So have them ready to send out. Any questions on that? Pablo, I saw your hand go up again. Were you trying to ask a question? All right. Terry.
I don't know. Did I unmute? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I just recently, since past the 17th, did my first listing agreement since then. And this was a past client. So I just went through the entire situation, explained it to him, perfectly understood it. He said, didn't even ask me any questions, so I can get away with it. He didn't ask, so I can get away without paying. I said, no, you can, but that's not really going to be the way we address this. But on the listing agreement, it had, all of the information is still the same. what you're offering the broker's agent, what you're offering a buyer's agent. And I went ahead and put that on the listing agreement because he's in total agreement with being able to do that. So this one you just mentioned, should I have had that compensation agreement to go along with that? Done and ready to go?
No, because you're offering it, right? So who's offering it? Did you fill out the listing agreement at 5% or 6% and then offering the other part 3% or whatever?
No, I put in there what the listing agent, me, was going to receive,
Okay.
and what was going to be offering to a buyer's agent, just like I normally would.
Okay. Well, like you normally would is what I said. So did you put, let's look at it. So this is the new form. Okay. So in 8, what did you put on this line?
Let me get it closer.
Sorry.
If you open up the form line, it might help us because it is really.
It is, but I got to switch windows if I do that.
Well, I can barely see it, but I can see it. I put on there the standard percentage that I charge for listing. And then where it says offering a buyer's, I put in the standard percentage we're offering to them. So my question is, do I have to do in addition to that?
So 8, you put 6 here, or what number?
Whatever my percentages are, yeah.
Okay. So you put 6 there and 3 here, let's say.
Yeah.
Seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to brokers and buyers brokers
Exactly.
in the amount of, let's say, 3%. Okay.
Right.
In that case, you are doing the old fashioned thing that we did, and you will use the seller's broker to buyer's broker thing. The seller does not sign that form. That is, seller has already given all the commission they're given right here, the 6%.
Okay.
So they're not signing that form. That is signed by you.
Okay.
And what you're saying is you're going to offer 3% to anybody who brings you a buyer, right?
Right. Different percentage, but yes.
Right. Whatever it is. So yes, you will sign that, and you might as well have them ready to go. That's what I was saying. Just have that form ready to shoot out to whoever wants it. Have it on your computer, have a picture of it on your phone, and you can shoot it out to whoever wants it. And if I'm selling the house, I'm not even going to sign it and send it back yet. I'll do it later because I have it.
Okay.
All I need to have is I just want something that you sign that says that you're offering that.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I don't have to sign that. If I'm the buyer's agent, I don't have to sign that and send it back yet until we have until we're ready to have a deal. And it doesn't go, and I've had, this is I'm glad you brought this up. I have heard you guys say, they asked me to just send it with the contract. You don't send it. They're having you do the seller's broker to buyer's broker and sending it with the contract. You don't send it with the contract. The seller doesn't sign it. You send it back to you send it to the listing agent, but you shouldn't have to do that. That's the point. You shouldn't have to do that because it's a whole separate signature. It's done by the broker, not by the client. The client's already signed off on their commission. They're done. Just like old school, right? Just like it's always been.
Right.
So if you have that situation where, and I'm going to go over the other situation right now. If you have that situation where you're doing, 6 and 3 or 5 and 2.5 or whatever it is, that's where you do that. Okay. If you are, the seller you have a situation where the seller's like, I'll pay you 3%, but I want to negotiate with the other party. I don't have to pay them. You either no compensation if they don't want to pay at all, or they're authorizing you to give less here. This is a weird situation because we've had one already where one of our clients said, I'll pay you, 2% or whatever, but I want to offer them as $1 million plus listing. I'll give you 2%, but I want to negotiate with them, either give them 1 or 2% based on the offer. If it's a full price offer, I'll give them this. If it's not, I'll give them that. So in that case, you're going to do B here, and you're going to go down into the additional terms and write, 2% of full price offer, 1% of less than full price. Or you'll write seller wishes to negotiate on a case by case basis. Perfectly legal, perfectly fine. Okay. So just note that's what you do. But yours in this case would be, they're not negotiating. He's not negotiating with you. Yours would be 2 here because it's all for you. And theirs is handled separately. If you're clicking A, then this is the total commission. You guys are certain to mess this up and lose yourself some commission. So please pay attention to this. This is the total compensation they're offering for sure. So if they're doing 6 and 3 and 3, or they're doing 2.5, 2.5, whatever, put that total number here, the 5 or the 6 or whatever it is there. And then down here, if they're doing the 2.5, 2.5 or whatever that is, then you'll do it here, an A. If they said, I'm going to pay you 2 and I'm going to pay them 1 or 2, that's when you do 2 here. You put what we are for sure getting right here, total commission for sure right here. And then the additional, this is for additional commission down here, the B, for the buyer's broker. I hope everybody understands that. Terry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be asking too many here, but as far as that answers that question, that's pretty much what I was figuring. Just, I don't know if anybody else has had this happen or not, but I've already had like probably 3 or 4 past clients call me. And these are clients that are pretty real estate savvy. They know what they're doing. They bought and sold several homes and stuff. So they're calling and asking me, can you explain to me what this is all about? Because they're reading all this stuff in the news and hearing all this stuff. So I've already had to explain this 3 or 4 times from point A to point B. And the main question they're asking me is, well, why did this happen? That's an answer I really don't know the answer to. And
I can help you.
So if you can enlighten me so that I can actually tell them, I have my theory as to how this happened. But anyway, just if you want to take a minute to go through that, it'd be great. Thanks.
Well, I've explained it on here. It's not an official reason, but I know what it is. And it's a bunch of lawyers got together for a class action suit because they made hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. Over $100 million, I should say, doing it. So that's what happened. Was there any real victim here? You had to offer $1 before to put it on MLS. Do you need to put, when you're going to sell a house, do you need to put it on MLS? You pretty much do, right? You're going to get more for your house if you put it on MLS. That's what we've been telling FSBOs for years, right? And it's true, right? We all believe that. So MLS rules made you offer at least $1. Why did people offer 3%? Because they knew it would get more for it. They get more agents to bring you stuff. The same reason you put it in MLS, because it gets more exposure for your house. So if you offer more in commission, more people are going to show your house, just the way the world works, right? They had to offer $1 to put it on there. You could have offered $1. You guys all saw them on there where some listings would offer $1 or $100 or 1% or whatever, right? That was unattractive, but you knew they just wanted to get it on MLS and they had to offer something. The only difference is now they don't have to offer anything. So really it's a $1 difference. And that's how I would explain it to my clients. I would say it's $1 difference. You had to offer $1. A year ago, you had to offer $1 compensation. Now you don't, to put it on MLS. That's the difference. Now, do you want to sell the house or not? Do you still want people to bring you buyers? Then you're going to have to offer something. And that's the bottom line, really. Why did this lawsuit happen? Because attorneys found a way to start a class action, which is a way to get really, really rich. Does that answer your question? I don't know which of those answers you like better, but that's the 2 things that drove it.
I think I pretty much had it nailed.
Okay.
I always tell everybody the reason why these offer contracts to place an offer in. When I started, this was like 5 pages. Now it's 12. It's usually a bunch of attorneys having fun.
Right. Yeah. So were the sellers really paying the commission this whole time, or were the buyers paying it with the price of the house? Right.
Sellers were always paying the commission. And that's when I explained it to my seller in this last one. Same thing. I explained to him, I said, in reality, if you want to sell the home and you want to pay a buyer's agent to bring a buyer, you're going to need to pay them. And if it becomes a negotiable thing, that's really, I see that happening more and more, to where the seller is going to have the knowledge to go, oh, I can negotiate this now. And I see that happening more and more. But as far as the reason why, I think you got that for me. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. I see that too. It's already happening. So I see it as well. So let me get to your questions in chat before we go on. You want to see a slowdown due to this? I have 2 listing and no showing in a few days. I don't know if it's due to that, Jika. The market's just not real sharp right now. I think people are getting, I know the market's moving because people are getting calls and they're asking me a bunch of questions. Can I have the buyer sign the agreement at the before entering? Absolutely, Pablo. Yes, they can sign in the driveway as long as it's before entering the property. I think that'll happen quite a bit because a lot of times it's the first time you meet them. Courtney, if seller is willing to pay 3%, buyer agent agreement says 2%, what happens to the extra 1%? Nothing. The seller keeps it. You can't, you are limited to whatever your buyer agent agreement says. You can modify it. There's a modification to your agreement. I've used that example for, because I didn't know you guys are going to be doing them at 2%, but I've used that example for, bonuses. Like if you take them to a builder and they give you a bonus, you can go back and modify your buyer brokerage agreement. Let's look at that. Oops, sorry. That's your regular buyer brokerage agreement. Modification to buyer brokerage or showing agreement. There is no modification to a pre-touring agreement because it doesn't say anything of any value. It just gets you to sign something and get that in the house. Modification to exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, showing agreement. Consumer, and we've already filled out the Florida Realty Investments. Whichever form you're changing, modifying, you can change when it ends. Is how you cancel it. You can make the termination date today if you want to cancel it. You change the compensation. So this is where you would do that. You would say compensation to 3%. That's all you would do. You click that box, hit 3, and you're done. Sign it. I hope that answers that question. No, if you had a listing prior to this becoming official, do you get your sellers to sign an updated agreement? No, your old agreement works fine. You'll just have to send out these forms. You do now have to do this because it's not an MLS. MLS used to enforce that, right? The board used to enforce it. If you offered 3 and you got to closing and Sandra got to closing and the MLS said 3 and I told her 2. I told the title company only pay her 2. She'd say, no way, that's not what the MLS said. So the board used to enforce that. Now there's nothing to enforce. There's no, it's not in writing anywhere what the compensation is. So that's why you do this compensation agreement. So go ahead and get that ready. If you had a listing prior to this becoming official, go ahead and get these forms ready. This compensation agreement with your Florida Realty Investments here. We didn't fill this out because we're going to be sending them from both sides. But put Florida Realty Investments, the address, and how much you're offering, and just have it ready to send out. Go ahead and initial it, have it ready to send out. Okay. That's it. Modification has to be signed prior to showing the home offering more compensation than what's on it. No, Tracy, just that can be later. You just take the chance of missing out on that money. Mary Lou.
Yeah, one, I just want to know if let's say on the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, because the client is my repeat customer, so repeat buyer. So can I put just 3% on the commission on it, and then I just let them know if the buyer have to pay it, and then I can reduce 2% because I don't know whether maybe the seller pay me for 3%, right? Mm-hmm. So the buyer brokerage is the maximum commission we can get from maybe the seller or the buyer. But I told my clients, the buyer said, if you pay it, I just charge 2%. Can I do it in this way?
You can do, yes. You can always take less. You can always take less than the agreement says. That's your choice. Just like you normally would if they ask you for, a little bit of a reduction in commission. You can always give a reduction of commission. You guys do it all the time. Like at a closing, if the washer and dryer are missing all of a sudden and you guys have to give $500 each or whatever, you guys do that all the time. You can always take less commission.
If the builder paid more on the bonus, more than 3%, do I need to modify the buyer? I need to modify.
Yep. In that case, you would do that modification, and you would put, they've got a perfect place for it, and you would put 3%, compensation broker would be 3% right here. You do it here, plus $5,000 or whatever the bonus was.
So it means I use the modification to buyer's brokerage or showing agreement, right? In that
modification
form,
right? Yep, exactly.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
This form right here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you, Juan.
All right, Mary. Any other questions before we go on?
Ryan, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this compensation agreement from Paperless Pipeline, I can use that irrespective of who I'm representing, right? Buyer or seller?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. That's why we didn't fill that in. That's why we left that blank, because we don't know which one you guys will be when you do it.
Okay,
But if it's your listing, go ahead and have it filled out and ready to go to send to people. It's so much. I'm getting so many questions about this from you guys, and so many listing agents are not doing this. And you don't know which form to use. You don't know if the seller's paying or the buyer's broker. How would you know? So you've got to go ask them another question. And please annoy them about it so they'll learn to do it. Terry.
Yes, you just raised another question for me regarding on the modification one. On the modification, if there is a bonus being offered, I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about it and there was no way to get a bonus. But now if there is a bonus offered, you can put that on the modification agreement.
Yeah. I did not know there would be modification. We talked about this a couple months ago. Did not know there would be modification agreement. There is, and that's what it says, and that's great.
All right. Well, that
also the way to terminate it. Which
okay. So let me ask you. This is a legal question, and I think this is automatically. Let's just say you're working with a buyer, and they see this, and you go, "Hey, I'm going to do a modification on here. I originally put on there 2.5%. They're offering 2.5%, but they're also offering a $5,000 bonus." So the buyer is automatically going to go, "Oh, good for you." You know, I can predict where buyers are going to go with that. And my question would be, if I'm willing to sign this to get a $5,000 bonus, what's in it for me as far as the buyer goes?
Yeah, I know that, and that's perfectly legal. You can give money to any party of a transaction.
All right.
So as a brokerage, so you're giving away brokerage money there, which is fine because you guys are all in 100%. We don't care what you give away. So, but let me share something with you from a legal standpoint, and this is just agency law. So I can talk about this because it's the law. As a broker, we can give money to another brokerage. We can give money to our own agents, you guys, and we can give money to any party to the transaction. So even if it's you guys have done this before, you've given as an agent, you've helped the seller, your buyer's agent, you've helped the seller out before. As a listing agent,
or the buyer.
Mm-hmm. So any party to the transaction, to that transaction, we can give. It's not a kickback or anything like that. It's not an inducement if they are a party to the transaction. So yes, they say that's fine, Terry, but I sure would like $2,500 of that.
Absolutely.
Then you can take it or leave it. I mean, that's you're $2,500 better off than you were.
Exactly. All right. Thank you.
Whereas before, that's an advantage to buyers because as before, you would have just put it in your pocket and never told the buyer about it. It's none of their business.
Yeah, and usually in a case like that, I would usually do something for my buyer anyway. But in this case here, they're going to see it, so that's a good incentive to offer.
Yeah. Hey, sign this form. I'll split it with you. Yeah. Rakesh.
Hey, Ryan, on the earlier point that you can use the same compensation agreement, whether you are representing seller or buyer. I came across recently a situation where the listing agent told me that in their case, it's really the seller who need to sign that compensation agreement. They are not signing from the brokerage perspective. So in that agreement, do we have option if let's say we are on the buyer side and seller need to sign it? I don't see that option there in that form, right?
Okay, that's because it's a different form. That's this form. That was seller's broker to buyer's broker. This is seller to buyer's broker.
Okay. So
in this case,
okay.
In this case, we're only using this from Florida Realty Investments because that is us, and we're sending this one in. The seller is going to sign this. We need one of these actually without our name on it because you need to have the seller sign this, but we'll leave it blank for their property. I would have them do this with the listing agreement. If they're going to do this, just have them sign it. See, the seller signs here, not seller's broker.
Yeah.
Seller initials. That's it. And then signs here. Okay.
Yep. Got it. Thanks.
All right. But there's no place for the seller's broker to sign there. Seller signs that. That is if the seller is doing the commission. Guys, we aren't going to see a lot of those. Sometimes they'll just say nothing, in which case, and they'll say, well, I don't want to pay them at all, or we'll negotiate it later, maybe with a good offer. In that case, you put they're not offering compensation. That is where you click that box on the listing agreement that says they are not offering compensation. That is 10C. We get back to the listing agreement.
One follow-up question, Brian. I also see people telling, oh, it depends what kind of offer you are getting. It can be 2%, 2.5%. How do you structure that? I mean, I guess it's really you can, because they're keeping it kind of open-ended that, okay,
Okay,
depends.
that's what I'm talking about right now. So in that case, if they say, yes, we're going to do it, we'll do, you try to get the seller to structure that, by the way, say 2.5% for full price, 2% for less than that, or whatever. If they want to say 2.5% if it's over, 500,000 and 2% if it's under that, whatever they want to do, they can do that with 10B, and we'll go into the additional terms and write that. Or if they say, I don't know if I'm going to pay them or not, depends on the offer, then you go ahead and put no compensation. Okay. Then they can negotiate it in the offer. And that is when they send the offer that says that the seller will make a concession of, 3% towards buyer's brokerage, buyer's obligation to the buyer brokerage.
Yep. Got it. Yep.
All right. So next question. Anybody have a question on that? Yes, Tammy.
Hey, I have a friend in Michigan that told me that their rule, in addition to what they're agreeing to, it should still always be on the contract. In Michigan, if it's not on the contract, you don't get paid. So
well, they don't have these.
Should we still always put this on the contract?
No. That's why we have these forms.
Okay.
Okay. So you can put things on contracts now. As you guys know, you couldn't before. It was an ethics violation to put it out there in front of the consumer, the buyer and the seller. Plus they could negotiate you out of it, right? So because you have no say in what a seller and buyer negotiate in a contract. So now, because both of the seller and the buyer through a listing agreement and the buyer brokerage agreement have a duty to pay commission either way, right? Whether it's in the contract or not, whether the seller offers compensation or not, the buyer still has to pay you because there's a form for that they've signed, a legal document. So you can include it in the contract now. The seller and buyer could go afterward or during this process, the negotiation process, and negotiate out of doing it out of the proceeds of the house. They can negotiate whatever they want, but they still owe you. So it does not make a difference. In Michigan, they probably do not have the compensation forms that we have. They have all different forms. These are FAR/BAR forms that we have adopted. They have different laws in Michigan. It's the NAR ruling for the whole nation for the MLS, but that is all. Everybody, state laws are different. And you guys get paid because the buyer brokerage agreement, the buyer owes you, regardless of how they pay you, whether they pay you through the money of the contract or not, or the seller pays you or the listing broker pays you. Yeah, ask a question.
But if the seller is agreeing to pay you and you have that proof, should it still be on the contract because the seller agreed to confirm? No, we just take it.
Okay. You have this form. You don't put you don't put the listing agent doesn't put their commission on the form because they have a separate legal form, which you have now also. And this is a legal form. These compensation agreements are legal forms. Okay. Legal form signed by both brokers, authorized associate. That's you guys. You guys sign it. Carissa doesn't sign all these. She'd be signing them all day, every day. So,
but if it's negotiated and they said they weren't paying anything, then that would go on the contract, correct?
Absolutely, has to.
Yeah.
If you're getting it from them, yes, you still have the legal right to just get it from the buyer. But if you're covering it for the buyer in the contract from the seller after they said they weren't going to offer anything, but we're negotiating it, has to be in the contract then. Yes.
Yeah.
And if it somehow gets negotiated out of there, guess what? Your buyer still owes you. So the buyer better not negotiate it out of there. It's their expense. Denise. Denise, you're on mute. I'm going to go to Mary first and then back to you, Denise. Go ahead, Mary.
Hey, I just want to know if I work with the builder, the sales told me 3% on the commission or 2% plus bonus on it. Do I need to necessary to get the compensation agreement seller to buyer the brokerage? Do I still need the compensation agreement from the builder since the sales told me that's 3% on the commission for the buyer's broker.
Okay, they put that form, they've always put that form in their contract.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Before the showing, yeah. Do I still need to get that from them? I know they will go.
You can, Mary, if it makes you feel better. And guys, if they are a builder and they're using the MLS, you still need to have your buyer brokerage agreements. I get that question too. What if I'm going to a builder? Yes, they'll get your buyer brokerage agreements.
Yeah, I have the broker agreement already done.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
fine.
See if they'll sign. You know, I haven't had anyone say that a builder wouldn't sign that form yet, and I don't know why they wouldn't. So that is what you do.
So it means I need to get the compensation agreement seller to buyer's broker. That
Yes.
need to be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they'll do that, yes.
Okay,
Either
so-
seller's broker to buyer's broker. Ask them which form they want to use. Seller's broker to buyer's broker, because a lot of them have brokerages as well. So they're
Before,
paying.
it's before the showing the house, or I think they have the on the contract, but I have the buyer agreement already. So I
Yeah, the
think I
buyer
will.
has to pay you no matter what. So if they can negotiate out of it on the contract, then they still owe you. But it's gonna be on the contract. They send it with every contract. It's right there in the front of it.
Oh, okay.
Every
So
building contract has you guys commission in it.
okay, understand. Okay, thank you.
All right. Denise, are you off there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. The question I have is, let's say a seller is not offering a commission and an offer comes in with my buyer and they want to add my commission into the offer. In the event it comes above asking price because of the commission, let's just say, then do we say that we submit a seller to buyer agent form, and in the additional notes put that our fee is coming out of that? Because it may create an above listing price in some cases. Am I being clear?
I think so. Are you saying like it put in additional terms that seller will make a concession of 3%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Towards
Well,
the
you're just gonna-
commission.
Yeah.
Because let's say it's for a $400,000 house and
Mhm.
they offer let's say they offer $395. And then we have to figure 2 or 3%, whatever our agreement is with our buyer. On top of it, it will bring it above the 400 original listing price,
Mhm.
as long as it appraises, which I'm sure it probably would. But then we have to do a seller to buyer's agent form in addition with the offer. Is that how it works?
You would already have that.
Right.
Well, no. Okay. Not if you're negotiating your commission into it, that means they wouldn't pay you. They refuse to pay you.
Okay.
That means the seller said.
Oh,
"We're
so
not
then it would
offering-"
so then it would just be concessions and it
Right,
would be
just-
an
it would-
additional.
yeah, just be
Okay.
concession like normal.
Right.
So I
Okay.
wouldn't offer $395 because they're not even paying 3% buyer's agent. So I would offer less because and
Right.
still the full price.
Right. Whatever. But it may put it into a situation where it goes above the list price if they have to add their commission.
Yeah, it could.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It could, but that means
Yeah.
that the seller is getting more than what they should have because they're not paying a broker.
Well, they decided not to, and if that's the offer they accept, then right, it's between
Oh,
the
yeah.
buyer and the seller,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Am I understand?
Yeah, you understand it perfectly, but the buyer has to pay you. And so if you go over, then and it doesn't appraise, it doesn't appraise.
Right. Right.
Something's got to get cut.
Right. Okay. I got it now.
Or
Thank
they
you.
gotta come out of pocket. You bet. Tammy.
But just because the seller says they're not paying doesn't mean you can't negotiate that, correct?
She was saying she was negotiating it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she was putting a concession in.
So I mean, if you're okay, so wouldn't you go for your commission first, and then if they didn't want to, wouldn't you go for a concession, or do you just disguise it in the concession to begin with?
Oh no, you go straight to concession. If they're not offering, you're not offering. What do you
Okay.
You can't make them offer, but you can put
Okay.
it in the offer because the buyer's incentivized to do that because the buyer owes you.
Right. Okay.
Let me get to the chat. Oh boy, 2%. Ida, do you know if new home builders will increase the commission since agents will not be able to earn the bonus amount? I don't know that. Depends on the market. I can tell you that. It depends on how many houses they're selling, what they're going to offer. But if they start offering more, they're going to let you know. So you'll fill out your buyer brokerage agreement at more, probably. But if not, you can always modify it. So if you have a 3% one and they start offering you 4%, then do that. Or they might do, instead of what they used to do is if you sell 3 of our houses in a year, we'll give you $10,000 bonus or whatever it was, right? On your third one. Now they might start saying, you get 3% on the first 2 and 5% on the third one or something like that, 4% on the third one, whatever. But whatever it is, if it's more than what you have on there, you're going to have to modify your agreement. Victoria, should we just upload this form on the listing attachments? You cannot put an attachment on the MLS that says how much you're paying. Great question, but absolutely not. That is the second worst thing you could do other than writing it in the remarks. So do not do that. Do not attach anything to the MLS that has your commission, what commission you're offering. A lot of you have asked, who do I need to show this buyer brokerage form to? Nobody unless somebody asks to see it so they can pay you. The title company may ask to see it. The lender may ask to see it. Do you ever show it to the other side? No, absolutely not. So I had one of you ask, well, I want to see their listing agreement. Tough. You can't see their listing agreement. They can't see yours. You can't see theirs. Bonnie, do we have to check the box an additional agenda for the compensation agreement? No, that's not part of the contract. Great question, but it's not part of the contract. And I don't want you guys sending it with the contract. It is for the listing broker to typically, unless it's the seller one. It's for the listing broker to sign, or listing agent, not for the seller. Frederick, are the strike-throughs remaining on the few of these forms going to be removed, or is there a reason they remain? It draws the eyes and will only lead to questions. That is why asking. Thanks. Okay, so we did get this question from people. And we talked to our attorney. This is legal advice that I do not want you giving your client, but I will tell you why we do it as a brokerage to protect you and us, mostly your commission. So here's the deal with arbitration. And some of you guys have been divorced or been in some kind of mediation before or arbitration. You know how it works. You pay both attorneys and you pay the mediator. And it is very expensive. I don't know if any of you guys can give me a thumbs up if you know anything about that. But mediation is expensive. You pay the mediator, I don't know, $400 an hour. Both of you pay your attorneys, and the prevailing party does not get attorney fees. Both of you are just out of pocket, whatever you spent. That is why arbitration is not good for real estate commissions. This is, again, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice that you'll share with your client, but this is why we do not want arbitration. If we remove it, it just looks like we whited it out. It would not be good. So, but we want them to know, just do not initial that part. We do not want arbitration. In a regular lawsuit, the victor gets legal fees, reasonable legal fees from the other side, from the losing side. The whole point of that is to stop frivolous lawsuits. If you are fighting over an $8,000 commission and you go to mediation, you're going to be coming out of pocket. If you fight for an $8,000 commission with a regular lawsuit, you will get your attorney fees back, assuming you're right. So that is the answer to that question. That's why we do not do arbitration. Now, that is not a legal. Tell them to have their lawyer look at it if they want to. It's the form that everybody's using, but we do not want arbitration, and their lawyer will understand why. But that is we're not lawyers. We don't give legal advice, but you can tell them that's why our broker does what they do. So you can tell them that. That's why our broker does what they do, because if there's a lawsuit, then both parties are going to be out of pocket more than any amount of commission. Tracy, in last scenario, you spell out that the concession is being used for buyer's agent commission, correct? Yes. Monica, although your commission is also considered a closing cost and prepaid, you can use it for that too, but it's better to just do buyer's agent commission. That is very straightforward, and that is the most transparent thing we can do. So I like that. What forms do we need to sign if buyer is also an agent? There's a disclosure form, but typically you can also, there's a disclosure form for it. There's an addendum, but you can also just always write it. What I always do is write it in the additional terms. Buyer is a licensed real estate agent in the state of Florida. That's all you have to say. Ida, thanks. Okay. Any other questions on these forms? Let's get down to, you can always modify these forms as well. If the seller to buyer broker form, that it says on there, you know, we're going to offer 2% if full price and 1% if not, or whatever, and then you talk them into 2% even though it's not full price, you'll put that on here. Just put 2%. That's it. Okay, so you can modify their agreement. They have to obviously agree to that, but you can modify that agreement as well. And that is it for now. These compensation disclosure statements, you are supposed to send these to your client. Nobody signs it. Nobody does anything. You just put a date that you send it to them. So if you have an ongoing listing agreement right now, this is what you do. If you have something under contract, doesn't matter, but an ongoing listing agreement, send these to them and upload them in Paperless Pipeline under that file. All this says is that notice to buyer, brokerage compensation is not set by law and is fully negotiable. Although if they have a listing agreement already with you, I mean, it's still negotiable until they get an offer. I guess they could go back and modify their listing agreement, but really it's just all there is there's a thing to say that you emailed it to them and the date you did it. There's no initials or anything else on there. Any other questions? But you will have Michaela ask you for those occasionally. So make sure you guys are know where that form is. So you can come down here and send it to your client and mark the date that you send it to them. These are all requirements that they put on us. Yes, Bonnie, do you upload the disclosure statement for BBA into Paperless Pipeline if there is no transaction yet? No, only if there's a transaction. We've been through this. No. Yes, Karen, it would go to the regular court system. Small claims if under 15,000 or whatever the rule is. Yes. For the buyer broker agreement, if you are only meeting one spouse at a property to show a home, you have to send the other spouse for, no, just one person can sign. Jenny, you're going to have people, you've had this before. You show it to the mother and the father, but it's really for the kid and they put their name on the deed and stuff. Like people come and go from deeds and stuff. Or from the contract. It doesn't have to be the exact person on the contract. Just one person from that party can sign it. That's perfectly fine. It does say any of their assigns or any of somebody they're doing business for. So they can't get out of paying you by having the husband sign it, but it goes in the wife's name or whatever, or the father and goes in the daughter's name or anything like that. They can't do that. Any other questions?
Hi, Ryan.
Yes. Yes.
Hi. Quick question. If I've been working with a buyer for the past couple of months, and it was before this became official, the new rule, do I need to go and make plans to buy another property probably in the next month or two? Do I need to go back and get their signatures on this new document?
Yes. If they're going to keep looking at properties, yes. Then once they sign it once, and you're going to sell them 5 properties in the next year, make it for a year and just keep it going. You can sell them as many properties as you want using the same agreement. Okay. You don't have to have them sign one for every property you show them, or even if they close on one, you don't have to have them for another one if they're still under buyer brokerage agreement with you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. The part right here, 7. Broker's compensation is earned when, during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, consumer or any person acting for or on behalf of consumer contracts. So that's what I was talking about, Jenny. Christina.
Hey, so I was just curious. I was seeing an attorney make a video regarding like the listing agreement, saying that now if you have an agreement set, like let's say I'm doing X percentage and X percentage, part to me, part to the buyer broker, and we're filling it out that same way, that now we're not automatically entitled to that buyer agency commission. Let's say somebody walks into my open house and they say, I want to buy this house. I say, okay, here's, the buyer broker, obviously they have to sign something, but somehow like something like you're not entitled to that buyer's agency commission. Is there anything new that needs to happen there if you're representing the buyer on your own listings sale.
Yeah, you're having them sign the buyer brokerage agreement with the contract or the showing
Okay.
agreement.
And you're just going to put the amount, so just the same changes that we have. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And you don't need to do a broker to broker compensation. It's all one broker. So you're all good.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen, there is nothing on this agreement that says she asked the agreement doesn't terminate with sale. There's nothing on here that says it terminates with a sale. So, you know, a lot of people think it does. And a lot of people are only going to buy one house and quit buying houses, but it does not terminate with the sale. I don't know. I've looked through here, did not see anything that says that. Yes, Pablo.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So on that, let's say we close on the house and then they go 6 months later and saw another house and went with a different agency. I guess that new agreement will null mine, right?
No, so they don't annul yours, but yours probably wouldn't be 6, you know, if you make a 1 year agreement. No, they would still, if they're still under your period, they would still owe you that. That's what we were just talking about. It doesn't say it terminates.
Well, but what if they get a new one with another broker?
Then they need to quit signing things that say they owe people money, because they're going to have to pay a lot of people.
Ah, okay.
Because this thing says, I will show you this thing. This is why this agreement is so good now. Look at the protection period. Consumer will compensate broker if within blank days after termination, consumer contracts to acquire any property which was called to consumer's attention by broker or any other person or found by consumer during the term of this agreement. So as long as they're under that agreement, anything that they find, they owe you for. Yes, Victoria, what happens if the buyer signed the agreement with another realtor, then signs with you? And you've been doing it, doesn't matter, they owe both of you. So they need to be grown people, adults, and not sign things that say they owe. These are legal documents, guys. This is a real profession we're in. We're not tour guides. We are real agents of industry. These are real agreements people are signing with you. This is everything someone signs with you. The reason you guys work so hard to get customers, everything people sign with you is important. Everything people sign with you is a big deal. It's a lot of money. Take it seriously and let them know it's a serious thing. Everything is don't build it up or scare them, but let them know, this is a contract that says this. This is a document that says this. This is an agreement we're making between us. It's very important. And if they've signed one with somebody else, obviously you're going to ask them if they lie about it, or if they're just not smart enough to know, then they're going to owe multiple people money if the other person finds out about it. Any other questions? But I think that's a really important theme, though, guys. This is real paperwork people are signing, and what Karen brings up is a great point. It does not say on here, and I think it will change. I think that lawsuits happen, and that's what changes forms is when lawsuits happen. That's why we have disclosures for homeowners associations, because sometimes somebody bought a property and nobody told them there was an HOA, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, why do I have to pay an HOA? Why can I not park my camper in my driveway?" What are they talking about? That's why we have HOA disclosure. It all comes from former lawsuits over things. So these are important things. These will be, you guys, if you were going out and buying investment properties as just a regular consumer, you weren't a real estate agent, and you're out and buying investment properties, and you signed one of these with Vivian, and you went out and bought a property, 45 days later you closed and everybody's happy, and then you went out and signed another one of these with somebody else. You would do that because you would think it closes, but it doesn't close. I would have thought so too. I would have thought it expires with this. It does not say anywhere on there that it does. Victoria, message me privately or put it on our FRI agents group, or send it to me. There are all different kinds of commercial real estate, all different niches. And so who I would recommend to you depends on what niche you're looking for. All kinds of people do all kinds of things. Patricia, please send Michelle. Michelle will let you know, or Michaela may put it in the comments here for the YouTube channel. I just sent it out to you guys 2 weeks ago in your invitation to this. I linked the YouTube channel last week's open forum. Any other questions?
Hey, Ryan, can you talk about this switch to Sentry Lock? And are we continue to have the Supra access or not? You need a separate account with the Supra for that.
Okay, depends on what. Are you with Aura?
Yeah.
Okay, so Aura has hit. There's your YouTube link, everybody. Aura has switched to Sentry Lock.
Yep.
Your Supra will expire on August 29th. It's going to stop working. Those of you are, so here's, some of you are Aura, Orange and Seminole mostly, but you can be an Aura, live anywhere and be a member of Aura. All of the surrounding boards are still Supra. Are you going to need access to both and to pay another $18 a month to have access to both boxes? Probably, if you want to do business. There are people in Orlando right now. People have listings in Orlando right across the street from people who live in Orlando. And you're going to be, it's probably a Sentry Lock. Well, guess what? That agent is from Lake and Sumter County, or they're from Osceola County, or they're from West Volusia County. So they're going to have a Supra Lock on that door that you're not going to have Supra for anymore because you switched to Sentry Lock. And those of you who are members of Oscar or Rousk or WVAR are going to want to show properties in Orlando. Or you want to show properties across the street from you in Deltona, and it's going to have an Orlando agent, an Aura agent, have a Sentry Lock on it. So yes, you're going to have both, guys. You have to have both apps, and you're going to have both. Until such point that you have both, you're going to have to talk to the agent and get the code. Both kinds of boxes can give you a daily code. You need to have the app either way. Go ahead and download both apps if you haven't already. You're going to need to have the app either way to get into any kind of box. So yes, it's a headache. Yes, we're going to have to pay an extra 18 or 19 bucks a month to have both memberships.
But did I hear you correctly that in case you don't have the membership for Supra and the showing you happen to show to your client is a Supra Lock, you can get a code for that day, right? That works.
Yes, you can, but you're going to have the app.
Yeah, okay. But for app, you don't need to pay, right? Or you have to pay for the app? You can have the app without paying monthly fee.
Yes, you can have that without paying the monthly fee.
Okay.
Yes, you can have the app. It's just going to be good luck getting the listing agent on the phone or whatever, give you the daily app or the daily number or whatever it is.
That's right. Thank you.
I have to have really good communication with listing agents.
Yeah.
So Victoria, why did Aura officially change the Sentry Lock? They changed because they were probably, I assume this was a multi-year contract. I know they didn't mean to do it in the middle of this NAR thing. It just turned out to be the worst timing ever. But it's probably a financial advantage of some type. They're passing it off as a better product. Maybe it is. But I don't know how much we care about how much better of a product it is. Some people will say they do. Some people are just mouthpieces for the local board and they don't care about anything else. So why did they do it? Probably for money. They got a better deal, whatever. I don't know. They're owned by, some people say they're owned. There's all kinds of, I don't know who they're owned by or whatever. I don't care why they did it. They did it and that's what we're stuck with. But I know they did it. They made the decision a long time ago. They didn't just make the decision because they would not have done it in the middle of this NAR thing. It was not good for them. Bonnie, if you are on Supra and the showing agent wants to see your listing, you click Manage Access to give the showing agent a one-time code. So I'm told by Rouse. Yes, I'm sure that's accurate. Lori.
I have about a dozen of the electronic lock boxes from Supra. And if I dispense with renewing my membership to my local board, will that cause a problem with my lock boxes?
That I don't know because it's done through Supra. And so as long as you're paying Supra, you're probably fine. I don't think they cut you off. I don't know. I wouldn't know that. I'm sorry.
I guess I have to call Supra, don't I?
I would talk to Supra. I wouldn't talk to the board.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not going to
make sure that you do.
It's just that it seems to me that I've been spending a lot of money and not getting a lot of.
I don't.
Okay, I will call. Thank you.
You can't get them. You can't get them Vivian, but if she already has them. It's, she already has them. Leslie, you have a question?
Yes, on any of the forms at the bottom, broker, sales associate, do we go ahead and initial both sides on that or leave the broker side blank on any of the forms at the bottom?
Broker, no, you just sign one. That's good. That they have it for both. It's either or. It's not both. It's not broker and sales associate, broker / sales associate. You guys sign for those.
So just initial the one side and leave the broker side blank.
Yeah. Yep. Just initial. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Next question. Anybody? Mary Lou.
Yeah, sorry. I have a couple of questions, Ryan. Yeah, I just want to know, I talked to the listing agent before 1 month ago, and then my client come down from New Jersey, and then they will come down this Sunday. The listing agent said the seller still pay the commission on the buyer's agent. So if at this point, which form I need the listing agent to be signed before I show the house?
The broker, the seller's broker, the buyer's broker.
Seller broker to buyer. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Any other questions before we go? Sandy.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused because I haven't been in all of your meetings. So if right now I have MLS Supra in Space Coast, and I also have the one MLS with Aura. Do I pay that Century Lock separate, or?
If you want to see houses that Aura agents are doing without having to get a daily code, then yes, you'll pay the $18 a month.
If not, I just call. So you have to pay separate besides your MLS with Aura.
Yeah, just like you've already been doing, right? Or you do it with one or the other. They've both been on Supra, so you've just been paying Supra.
Correct. So, well,
yeah. Now you'll have to go. Yeah. Now you'll have to do Century Lock through Aura.
So if I don't register with them, then I don't pay for it.
If you don't register with them, then you don't pay for it, and you download the app. And then when you want to see Century Lock house, you have to talk to the listing agent. They'll give you a 1-day code.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for the clarification.
All right. So you have to decide whether or not it's worth $18 to not have to talk to the listing agent every time you want to get in somewhere, which can be an embarrassing thing with your buyer and that kind of thing as well. So it's
can you do it before you go and show it? Because I always do everything before I go with my clients.
You do. Oh, of course. You definitely want to get the code and everything before you go.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, of course. No. I'm just saying if you, the problem is you're not going to know if it's a Supra or a Century Lock or whatever, because you're going to have, I know you're in the Space Coast area, you're in Brevard, you're going to have Orlando agents with listings there who's going to have it on Century Lock because that's all they have now.
Okay.
They're going to have a Century Lock box, and you're not going to know that until you get there.
Got it.
Hopefully they'll be smart enough to put it on MLS, but they won't because people.
If not, I will have to call all the people before going there, like you said, to avoid the embarrassment. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
For those of you who didn't, I did go to the Lockbox switch out thing and training thing, which was a 10-minute video or a 10-minute PowerPoint that people would come and go from. It's CenturyLink, SENTRI. Century Lock, I put it in the chat a minute ago. And it's an app. I downloaded it on my phone. You get it in your Google Play or your iPhone store, Apple Store, whatever it is. So there you go. Any other questions before we go? Everybody comfortable with this? I know scenarios are going to pop up and you guys are going to have questions, but I just want to make sure you guys are using the right forms. You guys know what to do. If you have a listing, I'm going to tell you and implore you one more time to go ahead and fill out the buyer's seller's broker to buyer's broker form, if that's what you're doing, or whatever form you're doing for the compensation. Go ahead and fill that out and have it ready to send to anybody. Yes, DJ Spiegel. You might be on mute. All right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Hi, Sandy.
Sorry again. On the buyer's agreement, I just have a client in the buyer's agreement. I just go and check in our forms, and I just fill it out, and because I already told my buyers, that everything that is going on, but if they decide to get a house that the person doesn't want to pay the commission, then it will be the responsibility. It's a client that I already had other transactions with them, and they were okay with it. So I just want to make sure that I do this time correctly.
So, yeah, great question. So even if you were already working with a buyer, so here's the deal. If you're working with buyers already before all this happened, they still have to sign one now. They didn't have to sign one a month ago or a week ago, but they do now. And if you are working with a seller that you already had under a listing agreement, you do not need a new listing agreement. They're perfectly fine. Just keep going with the listing agreement you have. And if it says 5 and 2.5 or 6 and 3 or whatever it says, whatever you're offering that other side, go ahead and fill out this compensation agreement, seller's broker to buyer's broker. Okay. This is what you'll fill out.
Ryan?
Yes, Denise. Or who's
Okay. Here's my question. I have a quick question regarding the seller to buyer's agent or seller's broker to buyer's broker form. Is there one that you use as a default? Let's say you want to put an offer and you're not sure, you haven't been able to talk to the seller's agent. You're just assuming that they're offering 2%, and the buyer says, just put in 2% that the selling side will pay our side.
Who told you?
Is there one form that's a default if you're not sure which one to use?
Who told you 2%?
No, it was let's say my buyer says that when you negotiate it, when I did let's say I do an agreement with my buyer, he only wants to pay 2% to me. So when I put in an offer for a house and I'm not sure what the selling side is offering, and I want to get my offer in, so I assume and I put it in that it's going to be 2%. Which other form do I put in as a default form that it's part of the contract?
Well, I wouldn't do that at all. I would talk to the listing agent before I sent anything.
But sometimes I've had it where the listing agent doesn't respond. I've texted. It's happened to me in the past that I've got an agent that's not cooperative.
Okay. Well, I would assume it's a seller's broker to buyer's broker, but what if they're not offering anything? I would just write it in the contract in that case.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. If one a default over the other.
You don't have any idea if that agent's ever going to sign anything with you.
Right.
Seller might sign the contract and the agent never signs anything. You don't get anything, or you have to fight with the buyer about it. The buyer's got to pay you out of their pocket. So, because seller might not be offering any compensation.
That's correct.
So they're not going to sign that either way. It's possible they don't sign it. So in that case, put it in the contract.
Okay. There. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Lori, did you have another question, or DJ?
Well, I had one and then I forgot it.
Okay. All right. DJ. All right. We're going to go on with that.
Ryan?
Yes, Victoria, yes.
Yeah, in regards to the Century Key giving like a one-time code, it reminds me a lot about Open Door, how Open Door releases like a code for buyers to even look at the house without realtors. Is that what may happen with Century Key, like just releasing the code to the buyers directly without having a realtor show? or
no,
realtors?
no, do not do that. No, it's still not ethical for agents to just let people walk into their listings.
Okay.
Not with our system. We do not. You don't want to do that. Open Door did that. They were the owners of those homes, so they could do that. You don't want to do that as a realtor.
Right. Okay.
So no. Will people do it? Probably. They've always done it. They've done it with coded lock boxes. So it's the same thing. Guys, if you don't want to play this rat race system and you just want to use coded lock boxes, I know that you guys have been taught and trained and everything else that these super keys are so important, and they protect everyone so much, or super essential, like whatever. Guys, we did for years. I talked to an old person. For years, we used coded lock boxes, and it worked fine. So you hear horror stories just like you hear horror stories about everything. But the horror story that you used to hear was that, agents were giving out the code and people were just wandering in. Well, guess what? They can do that with these too. So it's no different. If you say, I want to know everybody who comes and goes from the thing, make them pull showing time, and you can see who's pulled it. Now, are they all going to go? No, but you'll have a pretty good idea. Half of them are going to show it and half of them aren't. So am I telling you, whatever, don't play the game or do whatever? Then yeah, there's going to be a lot more people on Thompson brokerages. There's going to be a lot more people who don't have keys, who are going to want to see properties. Good agents with real buyers with buyer brokerage agreements are going to want to see these properties, and they're not going to be able to do it, or they're going to have to get a daily code from you anyway, just like they would for a coded lockbox. But they do have MLS access is the difference. So they can see showing time, and they won't have to bother you if it's on a code. When I say bother you, it's not a real bother to tell somebody what the code is, but it is a bother if you're tied up in a meeting and somebody wants to go see it at 1:30, and you've been tied up in a meeting till 12 o'clock and it's too late. So you don't have to play their game. That's all I'm telling you. We did it for years without fancy electric lock boxes. Any other questions? All right, guys. In that case, we're going to go. I'm here for you. I know you'll have more questions. I'm here for you. Email me, call me. Email's preferable right now. I am getting swamped, as you guys can imagine. So I look forward to hearing from you guys again. Yes, Lori.
My seller, I have 2 listings from this fellow. He's been a customer for a long time. And when I send him that notification that now commissions are negotiable, he's going to ask, I'm sure he's going to ask me, can he suddenly offer the buyer agent nothing? And I'll tell him, yeah, if you don't want to sell it.
Yeah, in so many words.
Yeah, because not every buyer agent is going to be getting compensated by their buyers.
Not everybody can. No, not every buyer can compensate their agent on top of the price of cash out of their pocket. Yes.
So,
but it's not just that. It's people don't understand this yet. People don't want to fight for their commission. They don't want to. What are you guys more likely to sell? If you call me and I say, 3%, or if you call me and say they don't want to pay anything, you can try to negotiate in the contract.
And at that
point, what do you think a lazy realtor? What do you think a lazy realtor is more likely to do?
Yeah, they're just going to say, we're going to show a different house.
Or yes, well that's the case, because I didn't just call you, I called 3 other people, and they're offering 2.5 or 3%, and you're the only one that said you're gonna have to fight for it. Well, I'm gonna show those other 3 first, right? So that's just human nature. That's
yes, it is actually business as usual, just with an extra layer of inconvenience.
It's that $1. Lori, the $1 that they made them give before to put it on MLS. If they had not made it where they had to offer $1 to put it on MLS before, they would have never had this lawsuit. Wow. Because there's literally no difference. They would have just taken the field off like they did for compensation, but otherwise there would have been no lawsuit. There'd been no money. So because the only difference now is that I don't have to. Do I have to give them $1 anymore to put it on MLS? No, I don't. Why did people not do their listings for $1? Because they knew they still wouldn't sell. The point is still there to offer commission.
Yeah.
And that's where the money is. So everything is based on credit, right? And the money here is based on what the value of the house, the proceeds from the house. That's the place where the money is. That's why the seller pays it. Buyer brings the money. They finance it in. The buyer actually finances the commission into their purchase that the seller pays from the proceeds. So that's where we are. Any other questions or comments? All right, guys. I will see you guys next week. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. Thank you all for coming in, and I look forward to seeing you soon. This will be recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel. The link is in the chat if you want to grab it real quick. If not, you have it from the invitation I sent last week or the week before. I put it on the bottom of that invitation. All right. Thank you all for coming, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.